Ditto.
Right. Good evening, ladies and germs. 1 second. Let me just, there's something very complicated I have to do here. There we go. There.
We are now also Instagram.
Oh, God, this is complicated.
But is there always...
it's to be very sure. Okay, well, just give me a break here, okay?
Anyway.
This used to be very straightforward. Let's just get stuck into it.
Yes, because we have today, as you know, we said it yesterday, Michael Fitzgerald.
And we're going to be talking about being clever. Well, here we are. Look, we're back in marvelous vertical vision for everybody on Instagram right now. Michael, it's been ages since we saw you. How's it going?
It's slowly. It's now warming up. It's now nearly summer, but it hasn't been. It's been really cold and wet all the time.
Well, it is London,
and probably
isn't
so
it?
has the theatre, but I haven't been.
How much does it cost to go to the theatre these days if you go to see something in the West End and go see a play?
About £4,972 for a seat. It's very expensive. People were spending £300 a seat to see Streetcar Named Desire with Paul Mescal.
Wow.
And they will spend £70 at the drop of a hat now.
Oh my goodness.
I don't go to anything unless it's £6 or less. Or free is my favorite choice. I used to have a friend in New York. Well, I still have the friend in New York. She would always say, cheap is good, free is better.
Yeah, I remember Tim Curry used to talk about his agent in New York. He'd say she would eat a sandwich and so I say, I don't know whether I should eat this or just directly apply it to my thighs.
Oh my God! Who was his agent?
I can't remember who it was. He said he had said to me that she said to him once, "Listen, Tim, you always got to have an attack Jew on your side."
Oh, good! How funny! I think I might have met her. I think I know who it is, but
I can't remember. It's just one of those things. You know, the shocking thing is when I think back when I met Tim Curry, he was younger than I am now.
Mm.
Isn't that?
I met him because he was one of the very best friends of Charlotte Cornwall, who is sadly no longer with us, and he was charming. I mean, charming.
Yes, very charming.
Absolutely charming, and
a nice person.
And he told me something that his agent in Los Angeles told him one day, which was, Tim, you got to understand, there's certain people who refuse to work with you, and he was like, why? And he says, because you make them look bad.
Well,
there's certain
I've
people
had that said to me, and I'm not sure they meant it, but they were just getting me off the track, I think.
Well, it's one of those things. It's like, Michael, we're going in a different direction. You're just too talented, too clever, and too beautiful for the role.
Oh, right. Yeah.
You've had that one. No, you're just too...
Well done. You did it again. It's all that.
Yeah, it's all that. It's just that, the other one I heard, which was, well, you see, you're the prototype. But we're still looking. Excuse me?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, let's talk about the subject
right,
today.
So we're talking about being clever today. Now,
yes, that is a subject that Michael wanted to talk about.
Yeah, so Michael, where did it come to you, this idea of being clever? There's various things. You've got actors who are clever, you've got writers who are clever, you've got directors who are clever, you've got audiences who are usually quite clever. So which aspect of cleverness?
Well, I'm going to be a little bit difficult about this word, really, because it's a positive word often, and we all love clever. We like to laugh. We like things that intrigue us, and they are. But sometimes it's very easy. It's like being camp. I once had a tutor. I paid no attention, obviously, but she said, "Don't be camp because it completely sidelines anything else that you might come to." Clever, to me, often and I mean, we were going to. You spoke weeks ago about the importance of being earnest and Oscar Wilde and all of that, and undoubtedly it's clever. But I have this thing where I think everybody in society likes to feel clever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to certain plays that they know and they know them to be clever, plays by Alan Bennett, plays by Tom Stoppard, plays by Oscar Wilde, they like to go and show you that they get all the jokes. They don't necessarily listen to them. They have pre-read the play. I was once in The Importance of Being Earnest, and people laughed at Lady Bracknell. I played Lady Bracknell, strangely, before the line had come out. They laughed before. So, in a way, the theatre is dead in the water. And I also think the play was written for a particular reason by Oscar Wilde. I think he turned convention on its head because there were plays around like Cast by Tom Robertson and all the Harley Granville Barker plays at the time that were to do with class and what that did to people and the divisions in class and how people fell in love across class into different classes and all of that. And I think Oscar Wilde knew that if you could make people laugh at this, that you would teach them much more. I mean, much as George Bernard Shaw thought he was doing, but he was always boring, yes? But, he said sweepingly. But I think, I think Wilde knew that if you turned convention on its head, if you talk about marrying into the family of a handbag, you can make people laugh, but they see your point. Mm-hmm. If you boringly go on and drone on and on about what it's really like, yes, it's the truth, and yes, they were sort of cause celeb plays, and yes, they were good, but Oscar Wilde won. He won because everybody remembers every line he ever wrote. Mm-hmm. And they were very clever, but
a lot of lines he didn't write.
That once you have said something, once you have said something is clever, you've said everything there is to say about it. There's no more to say about it. Clever is clever, and that's it. And a lot of people are clever, and people can go and laugh. They can laugh before the lines are said, and they can pat themselves on the back because they were at a very intelligent, clever evening. But I think Wilde wrote that play in order to criticize those other plays. And now you could not possibly perform The Importance of Being Earnest, and anybody would ever get that. They wouldn't get any reason why he probably wrote it. They would like it because the lines are so clever and they love it. And that's fine because the lines are clever and you love it. I mean, and you sort of say, well, there are actors who are clever. There are many who probably myself included sometimes. You rely on that and you think, what would happen if you didn't do that? Now, that isn't to say that one should throw out clever. One loves clever. One loves to go and be tickled and feel good about something. And it isn't always instead of something else. Sometimes that is the point, that it is clever and that you have a good time at it. I mean, we must remember in this age in which we now live, in which everything is deeply serious and they dig even deeper and deeper into history and to what's just happened in the news and everything else, that there are two masks up there, and one is a comedy one, and people like to forget that one at the moment. They don't have that humanity to laugh at themselves in quite the same way in the things they're writing or doing. Look at everything that's on television. It's always just deep and dark and bloody and,
Yes.
Except there are some things like The White Lotus and things like that on television that are not that. But, otherwise, why would you take The Talented Mr. Ripley, which only takes 2 hours to tell, and put it into black and white and tell it in 8 hours and make it really, really serious? Why would you do that? Except that it's good. It's very well done. But why would you do that? Why do people diminish comedy? Why do they always think, well, comedy is just comedy, it's not important? And you think, I think it takes more talent to do comedy than it does to do tragedy. I think that we know a lot of very, very voicey kind of Shakespeare actors who can go on and be tragic as Richard II or whatever, and or Hamlet or whatever, and they are highly praised. But I think gone are the days that Ken Tynan used to write about, where every great actor, sooner or later, has to jump through the hoop of Hamlet. That's what he has to do. You think, well, tell that to Marlon Brando, tell that to Robert De Niro, tell that to Anthony Hopkins, tell that to a lot of actors who did not jump through the hoop of Hamlet. That does not make them a worse actor, I don't think, not in my book. But when you're being funny, you have to be honest, you have to be truthful, you have to be more truthful, because if you're not truthful, then it really isn't funny immediately.
Of course.
It's one of the things that...
I've gone way off the topic.
No, but that it's very often that we have in our classes and courses people going, oh, I want to do comedy. And the thing I always say is, anybody who's ever been involved in a very serious play with very serious subject matter understands that they are a hair's breadth away from absolute comedy.
Yes, there's nothing funnier than bad Greek tragedy. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's just so close to becoming, it's
one
like
is
it's
dead.
like
The other one is dead. The other one kills another one.
Well, no, I mean it's quite preposterous.
Yeah.
But it's like Titus Andronicus. It's just like fun, good family fun. It's like a pantomime. But it's like that story of what's his face? Peter O'Toole playing. I think he was playing Hamlet. I'm not sure. He might have been playing. I think it was Macbeth. And there was a ramp at the back of the stage, and he ran down to the front. He sort of flopped down to the front. In a Peter
Yes.
O'Toole way. And he got to the front, and somebody in the front row went, just went,
Okay.
and he went, oh, piss off. And he walked off stage.
How funny. Well, yeah.
Well, but define what is being clever, because what I think, or in my experience, clever is fine. There's nothing wrong with clever. But what is bad is when you want to be clever. When the audience want to be clever and laugh before the joke, or when a director wants to really be cleverer than everyone in the set, or when an actor also can be.
A director being
director
clever. A director being clever in the theatre, visibly clever, is death. I'm sorry. It's deadly.
But want to be clever, I think that's what we are talking about, because
Well, it's to do with the mind, isn't it? And it's to do with the quality of the mind, and it is a little bit intent on watching itself and showing you that it's clever. Certainly actors that do clever. I mean, I know very fine actors that you leave them alone and they're in the right thing and they're perfect, and you see them in something else and they're being clever is just unbearable.
Yes. Well, you, Scott, you're called Cleverdon. And,
that's true, and I had no part in that. It's my name. It hails from Dorset, from the West Country, from a place near Hartland Point called the Clover Hill. Clever being the another way of saying clover, and Don being the Welsh word for hill. Cleverdon, Cleverdon, and there's tons of Cleverdons there. That's where we all hail from.
Yeah, but normally the people interpret Cleverdon, Don Clever.
Look, I think it's very interesting. We started off by talking about Oscar Wilde, because if there's anybody who you would put under the definition of witty or wit, it would be Oscar Wilde, which is a sort of a dry.
That's wit, yeah.
Yeah, it's a dry observational comedy, which is invariably based upon inverting the social mores of the day or the time or whatever it might be. That sort of wit can extend into things which aren't necessarily funny, like in a time of lies, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. That there's a great deal of there's a word for it, and I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. It's a rhetorical formation. It's like as Oscar Wilde saying, everything in life is about sex, apart from sex, which is about power. It's interesting because what's happened
Do you mean something like epigrammatic or something?
Yes, indeed. This whole concept of off the cuff, which in my understanding is that people would note down witty things that people said at dinner and write it down on their cuffs.
That's right.
So this was the idea that people would sort of regurgitate or recycle wit in one way or another. It was there's a sort of strange end of civilization thing that was sort of going on. It seems to be within the London sort of aristocracy and the upper middle classes, and there's certainly something which is the only reason he gets away with being so cynical in the importance of being earnest is by being extremely funny. Right? He's like a very beautiful girl who's incredibly mean to everybody. But because she's so beautiful, everybody's like, we'll just let this one slide. But the fact is, if it wasn't truthful, it wouldn't be funny. Mm-hmm. It's even when he says, you mean there were no cucumbers in the market today, Merriman? He says, no cucumbers, sir. Not even for ready money. Right? There's layer upon layer of this kind of, this attacking upwards thing there, because it's attacking class, it's attacking gender, it's attacking gender roles, because the women are all strong as hell. As it says, women's great tragedy is they all become like their mothers. Man's great tragedy is no man becomes like his, or something like that. Oh, I have a question for you. I have a question for you, Michael. How did we do the handbag line?
I gave up and I was Edith Evans, because that's what everybody wants. Because if you don't do Edith Evans, they are hoiked out of the play and they think, well, it's not like Edith Evans. And they note it down. And I've seen a number of people fail at Bracknell, including Maggie Smith and Judi Dench. They failed. Judi Dench failed because she tried to make her likable. And you think, no. My feeling about... I remember, and I want... and once kind of, Nicholas Heitner asked me one day, what would you think if I cast Maggie Smith as Lady Bracknell? And I said, she'd be better as Prism. And he said, why? And he hadn't told me this, but he had just cast her as Lady Bracknell. And I said, well, because Maggie Smith's comedy is predicated upon being insecure. That's why she's funny. And there is nothing insecure about Lady Bracknell. Lady Bracknell is simply right. Mm-hmm. And everybody else, therefore, is wrong. And that's kind of what's funny. But Oscar Wilde wrote about her that it was like England telling Ireland off.
England telling what? Ireland off?
Well, you have to understand that, like all immigrants, he became more of the culture that he moved to than he was, because he was an Irishman. So he adopted all of the ridiculous social mores of, but he was, at the end of the day, he was an Irishman,
Yes.
And what does the record say that he spoke like? Did he have an accent? How did he sound?
No. I think he was very posh English.
Like Daniel Day-Lewis.
He was at Oxford, and he was apparently quite tough. He had been known to throw people downstairs and things.
Oh, really?
He was
violent.
Yeah. No, just if somebody misbehaved, he would tussle them out. He wasn't just rather fey and spouting witticisms. He was a big lad.
And
yeah.
Except when around Boise.
At a time. But anyway, going to Bosie's mother, the reason Lady Bracknell is called Lady Bracknell is that Bosie's mother, probably Queensbury she was married to, she lived in Bracknell, just outside of London. That's where the name came from. And when he described her, she was always insulted by things. He says she quivered like she was a gong that you had just struck. And so it was that kind of thing of not being able to cope with anything that was outside of her own thinking or what she thought was right. That's what he thought of her. But then she must not have liked Oscar Wilde, particularly if he was sexually intent upon her son. I think that was all,
Her son?
Well, yes.
Bosie was.
Who is son?
Bosie was the son of this woman who was the prototype, Lady Bracknell. And Oscar Wilde, he had a wife and children and everything else, but he also had this young man, and it was Bosie who was his inspiration in many things. The picture of Dorian Gray amongst them, who's this?
Oh, I thought he was clearly gay.
No. That's quite a modern concept. Mm-hmm. That's the entire subtext with the importance of being earnest. They're bumbrying. They put it about a bit when they go out into the country. I mean, that's sort of it's a very clear subtext in the play that these two rakish gentlemen would go off and mess about in the country, as it were.
Well, we were talking about clever. Back to the subject.
Yes, sorry.
There is actors that want to be clever. I like to talk about that, and also about directors or writers wanting to be clever, because I think they're very specific.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned Tom Stoppard, because Tom Stoppard, it's like, how can I set myself the task of the most difficult thing imaginable? I know I'll write a play about the two characters who come in and out of Hamlet, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, and try to make something out of that. It's a little bit like Alan Ayckbourn in the Norman Conquests. Go out of your way to they're almost like puzzle plays, where you're sort of like attempting to, find out what was happening when they were treading water. Very, very clever. But the thing with, Tom Stoppard is extraordinarily witty, extraordinarily clever, and I don't know, is Alan Ayckbourn still going?
He's quite old. I don't know whether he's still alive. I think he is. I've met him, but I haven't seen him since, because he used to turn up at an actor's nursing home called Denville Hall and to visit somebody that was there that I visited. And so he was at several parties. Terribly nice man.
Yeah, I don't think it's possible to write that many plays and be that funny and not be a human being. I think one of the things that happens, there's almost like a celebration of the not clever sometimes. Something that we touched upon before in another day, like a celebration of the not speaking the verse properly, a celebration of like not, respecting the genius or the cleverness of certain things. The other thing is actors who want to appear clever, right?
Yes, this wanting to appear is what is the problem. Wanting to appear is like, but they are not.
Well, it's one of the things that people confuse. I was saying comedy. You only. Sorry, go ahead.
Assumpta, they don't know that they're not clever. So how clever is that? They just keep pushing.
Well, there's some things we've all. There are actors out there who are very clever people, or intellectual people, but they don't come across like that. And there's people who are very clever. That's one thing about, I think I mentioned that to you before, about Imogen Stubbs. Imogen Stubbs, who's apparently quite clever.
She is.
And yet, that whenever she's acting, there's a thing that she gets out which is not entirely, it doesn't come across as being really, no, it doesn't come across as being really smart. Mm-hmm. Which is nothing absolutely wrong with it. Because the other thing that actors are worried about is losing. And unfortunately, when we get back to comedy, you only really win when you're losing. In comedy, that's what I would say. So why do we really not value comedy as much as we should then? Why does that happen?
Because it's not serious. It is the opposite of serious.
Okay, so why do we need it to be serious?
It's like, and I have to say this just because I'm being clever now. Mm-hmm. It's like my premise about don't bore the nice people they paid. We're in a business called entertainment. What is the opposite of entertainment? Boring. I have to say that. The same is serious tragedy and comedy. People think I'm really serious about this, and you can talk about important issues. Well, you can talk about important issues in comedy, but you just think, but you're being flip, and it's throwaway, and it's all those things, and you think, well. But that sort of thing stays with people much longer. That's why Oscar Wilde would have felt he was winning. Because if you can make somebody laugh, somewhere they agree with you. That's all. They just agree with you. If they didn't agree with you, they wouldn't laugh. They'd be angry.
Yes.
It's one of the problems.
It'd be very, very boring. I mean, one of the most tragic things is, to observe someone that is pushing to be funny and is not. And then it's really tragic. Is, no? When someone wants to be funny and is not, or wants to be clever and is not. Yeah, this thing of wanting to appear to be clever is something that I found in a lot of writing, and it's kind of infuriating
Yes.
after a while. Is when the writer wants actually to show off how clever he is or she is, and then they do all these false turns, or this editing where it's only confusing, but they think that they're clever. It happens a lot in movies when the people really.
You hear it all the time in like television series, particularly if they're clever and if they're funny. You hear people write and you think, but people never talk like that. Only the writers talk like that.
Yes.
And
you can
most
feel it
people
right away.
buy it because they're entertained. People are not going to be picky. Most audience members are not that picky.
For you, in terms of film and television, what are in terms of comedy references, what are the things that you genuinely found original and funny recently, or over that comes to mind over the past while?
Well, recently, I don't know that I can say that I've seen anything funny.
As I haven't laughed much recently.
No, I haven't laughed much.
I have found nothing to raise a titter. Not a chuckle.
I mean, if I look back at all the old films, I love people like Billy Wilder and Frank Capra, all those Hollywood vintage people. They were funny. And a lot of actors are funny. One of the actors that I loved so much, he's no longer with us in England, was Richard Griffiths. He was simply human and terribly funny. Without a single line, he was funny. And people like Sir Michael Hordern, and Peter O'Toole, they all had a great deal of energy. You'd have to have a little bit of energy to be funny, usually. In America, Elaine May, Walter Matthau, Jack Lemmon, these were very funny actors. They could be. And they could be serious. They could be every man,
Yeah, Marcello Mastroianni in Italy, or Alessandro Benvenuti, or.
Well, one of the things that happens is that, like, getting back to the whole idea, if it's not truthful, it's not funny. And it's something that Prunella Scales, I saw, and I think I mentioned this sometime before, I saw her doing in my drama school. She did a comedy masterclass, which was terrifying. Utterly, it was literally, people were like, running off in tears and stuff. Because Prunella Scales has an almost scientific understanding of comedy at the quantum level, right? There's something that she does. She can literally take anything, because what she's doing is she's toying with the attention that everybody gives her, because she is who she is and she knows how to play with it. And her one piece of direction to everybody all the time was, just do it better, right?
Yeah.
That's what she said, and she, after she said it 5 or 6 times, she was compelled to explain it, which was, stop trying to act better, just do it better, just make everything more real, make everything more truthful, make it more accurate. And it's like somebody asked Steve Martin once, what's the secret, what is comedy? And he said, and he stopped and he paused. I wish I could find this interview, and then he looked at the person and he said, it's the detail in the speed. What it is the precision and the velocity of thought, and the speed of thought it was. But that one thing of do it better, the worst thing anybody can do is, when they're doing comedy, is to try to be funny. I think we've established that.
Oh, awful.
And the other thing is understand that you will lose. And I think that there's certain kind of breakthroughs in terms of comedies from the silent era. You got Jack Lemmon, Walter Matthau, of course. Then you got Shirley MacLaine, who in The Apartment is simultaneously in a tragedy and a comedy.
Absolutely.
She's inhabiting those two spaces broadly, and it's not because she's there's other great actresses. Just watch Meryl Streep's first comedies.
Awful.
Absolutely terrible. Watch Jodie Foster's comedy.
Awful. Too.
But unfortunately, if you go and watch Silence of the Lambs right now, it's so arch that it's just it's. I mean, it's all I can think of is French.
What is Arch? Did you say?
Arch is Jodie Foster in Silence of the Lambs.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever remember that French and Saunders satirized it,
Yes.
where they had the crankies in the cell next to Hannibal Lecter, and he said,
Yes.
What did the crankies say to you, Charlize? Clarice? She goes, Fandaminosi. The Crankies were a Scottish double act where an adult woman played a little boy.
Oh, I see.
Any resemblance to Nicola Sturgeon is purely incidental.
Oh my.
Yeah. So then you kind of then you come up to the like hyper naturalistic when you get things like Spinal Tap in the mockumentaries, which is the great grandfather, we could say, of the British Office, Ricky Gervais, and then you get the American Office with Steve Carell, and then that spawned a million different TV shows that had exactly that same super naturalistic comedy. And then you get things like Veep and Succession, which Succession is effectively a comedy.
But for instance, both of you,
yes, darling,
you are very clever. Both of you, you know that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Okay, yes, I mean it's true.
But define clever.
Well, the witty, you did quick, a perception that is original.
All right, keep going.
Well, both of you. I mean, it's a delight.
It's a delight, as James Lipton would say. If you've never seen Michael Fitzgerald on the stage, then you have never lived. He is a delight. He is everybody else can just go home, including the audience. He needs no man. No, what I think you're saying is that we're two people possessed of our own opinions, and our own
way of seeing life.
Perhaps original theories on things which get us into trouble every once in a while.
No, but it's fine. It's fine because it's very entertaining. You never know. It's very surprising, your conversation.
Like when I say Stanley Kubrick was a psychotic with Asperger's who tortured actors, and he wasn't a great director. He was just obsessive. People are like, how dare you? I go, well, monkeys and typewriters, mate. Monkeys and typewriters. Give me 125 takes. I'll knock something out of the park. So that's a different thing. The unfortunate thing as an actor, being that sort of clever, isn't always useful.
And it's something that I saw also being a teacher in a lot of actors, that they really didn't help them much, the cleverness in a role. What do you think about that? I mean, I think
it's kind of personal. It's a bit like charisma. You either have it or you don't have it. You can't prescribe it. And if you can't be fun, if you're not funny, then you just ain't funny. I'd like to go back to, you were saying something about comedy and about how often you don't believe people and all of that. You see, I think one of the things that comedy needs to have a little bit, the reason you have to be honest, one of the reasons, is that there has to be a drive. And there has to be a drive because you really, 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 really want something. And that is what's behind like all of the Ben Jonson plays, all those Jacobean comedies. That's what's behind any farce. It's that, you don't have to have the kind of thing where you think about the character in depth, but you do have to know what the situation is, and the person has got to believe it and has to get behind it, and there has to be drive, because it's either the winning of what you want or the failing to get what you want that makes it. That's the whole reason for the whole thing. And if you are looking, the problem with clever is because it's witty and because it is much loved, a lot of people, I don't know, they are looking at themselves when they act a little bit. That makes it less believable.
Yes, of course.
And I mean, it's like all things. It's not easy. I'm not prescribing anything here that's easy. It isn't.
Well, it's just that. Well, I don't know if clever. I mean, the opposite is opposite of clever is ignorant. But I find out that there were a lot of actors that I met through the classes or through the the life as an actress, that really they were not very smart. They were not very clever. They were not very intelligent, and they were really fine actors. You don't have to be clever to be an actor. That's what I mean. There's a lot of
No, but that goes one step further. I would suggest that I've always said to people that you have to be smart enough to know when you're going to be stupid.
yeah.
Is that there's a degree of innocence and a degree of how would you say unsophistication which is necessary for the audience to be more sophisticated than the thing that they're looking at,
Yeah.
because they need the perspective, they need the frame, whether it's the stage or whether it's shot. It's why it's very difficult to do comedy in close-up, right? It's because you have no context. The Coen brothers get around it by using a very wide lens and also having everything else in focus, and then they put the camera very close to the actor so you're very near them. They get through it like that. Steve Carell in The Office is basically doing comedy in close-up, but that's got to do with the context of where he is, and the entire environment. That's how that works there.
Yeah, being an office.
One
yes.
of the problems, one of the issues is, and then we get back to the idea of the buffoon, the clown, the joker, whatever you want to say, and the jester, as it were, is the fact that because of their innocence and lack of sophistication, it allows them to say very sophisticated things. Right? Which is Jeeves and Wooster, it's Merriman and Jack. It's that idea that it's when you did He matado a mi marido, when you're playing the maid.
Oh yes, I have to give you this movie, Michael, for you to see.
So Assumpta, she said she has to do a comedy movie in Spanish, and she's playing the maid, right? So she's playing the maid. So she was like, "Well, what do I do?" I said, "Well, you need to watch, Jeeves and Wooster, that particular kind of master-slave relationship where the slave is always much wiser than the servant's always much wiser than the master."
Yeah, and that was really the case in that movie. Yeah, it's really fun when you get a character that can be very, very stupid in its own way. Also, that is not a clever thing, a clever one.
Well, the audience should always be a couple of steps ahead of what's going on.
Yes. No, but
Tell me, have you had experience of doing comedy on camera?
Probably, but mostly as a character. Mostly it was not to elicit laughs necessarily.
Yeah, it's a very peculiar experience.
I'm lucky in that I was born with a funny face, so I love me whenever I see me. So it's funny. No, yeah, I can't think of that I've ever been played something fun. Once I did, right at the very beginning, like a couple of hours filming, the very first thing I ever did was to play some little soldier in somebody who was the boyfriend of somebody in a family, and it was done for schools. It wasn't broadcast. It was an episode of something. I never knew what it was, called Joy, and I was taken as a member of the Young Vic Theatre Company, and we filmed one day. But that was written to be funny. Mm-hmm. How he was and all of that was, and so you just did it, I guess.
Yeah, it's like I remember seeing. Remember the kids show Rainbow?
Yes.
Did you ever see Jeremy Irons on it?
No.
Oh, I should look that up for you, because it's Jeremy Irons on Rainbow with a bunch of people in costumes and puppets. It's amazing. I mean, it really is. I mean, he goes for it. I mean, I take my hat off to him. He went to work that day.
But it's funny because it's nice that we compare comedy with funny, because with something funny. Because when I
beg your pardon?
Exactly. No, because in these two cases, people don't have to try hard if it's already written. To do something that is really funny what is difficult is to do something really funny with something that isn't funny. But
do you want to try that one again?
We also know certain people, probably myself, one can kill something dead.
Yeah.
And it isn't funny, and you think, "Oh, get me out of here," and so you just go very fast.
Yeah.
I did that once. I was in a farce called Donkey's Ears, and I just thought, run on, do it very fast, run off. And I did. It was funny. Get off.
Yeah, but I mean, when
Better in
you,
the wings than if on stage.
but what I mean is that when you see something that is funny, it's kind of a red flag, because you say, okay, I'm laughing here, while I'm reading it, and and normally when you enter in the phrase, you say, well, hopefully that's going to be as funny as when as I read it. But you know what I mean? It's always it's always a challenge to recreate what you had felt when you first read it, if it's funny. No?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
a big
But
challenge.
we all know, probably ourselves, but we also know actors who think this is my favorite bit and this will really get them and they'll really laugh a lot. And if you do that once too often, you lose it.
Yeah.
If you're in a run of something. In film, you just hope it works. You hope, well, if it doesn't work, then maybe they'll put loud music over it and it'll be fine.
Well, there's a certain thing I remember. What I equated to, I remember I did a play called Cutting a Rug, and I did it at Lyceum. And I also did it when I was at school in the youth theatre, and then I did it professionally. And there's a moment where my particular character gets everything he misunderstands everything that's being said to him, and he announces to this balcony, if you'd all like to come inside, right? And it's so preposterous how wrong he gets it, that it's, everybody laughs and then everybody applauds, because it's like, it happens at a perfect time in the play. And it's, and what I would equate it to, all you can do is play that bit. You have to play it, and you're not playing it you never are approaching the understanding that you never think it's going to be funny. That's one thing. I equate it to, when you got like a waste paper basket and you roll up a piece of paper and you throw it in, right? If nobody's watching, it goes in. You get it. The minute somebody's watching, right. The minute somebody's watching, you go like, check this out, and it bounces off the wall, hits the dog in the eye. You know what I mean? It doesn't go anywhere near it. There's a thing where you have to just go for the thing and play that,
yes,
like a handbag. You have to just do it, because otherwise you're just going to mess it up and miss the basket.
Well, one thing that I found as an actress in a comedy is that you need really a director who has sense of humor.
Yes, you do.
Oh God, yes.
You absolutely do, and because it can be quite technical. If you're in a farce, it is absolutely to do with how quickly the door slams and all of that stuff. You have to, and it's fun to do that because you're mechanically making it happen.
Yes.
But you can't do any of this unless you are playing one of those really, I don't know, off the back foot people that they're funny because they are. But usually you need to have energy.
Yeah, you need to have someone there. Yeah, absolutely.
But do you know what's terrifying is when you have a piece of text, when you got like a short speech, and it's funny. You know it's funny. And the first time you read it, you laughed out loud. And at the read-through, everybody died laughing. And then all the way through the rehearsals, it became gradually less and less and less funny. I did that. I did a play when I was at drama school called Sisterly Feelings, and it's written by Alan Ayckbourn. And the play opens with a woman walking onto a heath and being full of the joys of spring because they're going to go camping. And her beleaguered husband walks on afterwards, with a cardigan, carrying like a tent and sleeping bags and a rucksack and everything else, just laden down. And the first words out of his mouth at the start of the play is, "I take it this is your day for not carrying things." Right? That's the first thing he says. "Yesterday was your day for not doing the dishes." And it's one of those, middle class kind of moaning speeches. But it's bloody hilarious. But the trouble is...
Well, it completely sets up a relationship and what people are like in a sentence.
Yes, absolutely.
Very, very clever.
Fabulous, yes.
Was it ever filmed by anybody?
What, Sisterly Feelings?
Yeah, probably not.
No, it wasn't. It was one of his plays where he was being very clever, and I'll tell you why. At the end of the first act, they toss a coin, and it goes to either Act 2A or Act 2B, right? And then at the end of that act, they toss another coin, and it goes to either Act 3A or Act 3B. The beginning and the end are identical, but what's going to happen is anybody's guess, right? It all ends up in the same place. Mm-hmm. And there's various different scrapes and other sort of side quests that go on within it. And it's one of his plays where he's just being super, super clever, right? as was his wont. It's a little bit like it's a little bit like somebody who can jump their motorcycle across the canyon, and they're like, all right, let's see if I can do it with a backflip. And it just gets, until you get the Norman Conquest, where you have 3 separate plays happening simultaneously in 3 parts of the house.
Yes.
And you really need to see all 3 of them, and, to really appreciate it. But the thing that you're reveling at is just this, it's like a Swiss watch. It's like a strange puzzle of a play. And that has its own delight. You know what I mean?
Yes,
because
yes.
it's
like trying to do a puzzle, or it's entertaining.
Well, I've experienced doing comedy on camera, like in a film, and one of the things that you hope for, there's no laugh better than when they go cut and everybody laughs. Right? That's
great. No, that's great.
That is wonderful, and nothing worse than when they go cut and it's
silent. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the other one that you get.
Well, you had this.
Oh God!
You remember with Tim Curry? That was
Tim Curry.
Yes.
Brian Seisner was his name, and you would do something. And
the director, right?
Yeah, we had Bruce Campbell, Ernest Borgnine, Dean Stockwell, Tim Curry, yours truly, Tom Arnold. Less of that later, as we would say. And we had all of these French Stewart. French Stewart is like an actor from the 1930s. He's one of those sorts of guys. Play a little chin music. He was one of those sorts of cats. Very, very particular. Just weird, incredible cast of characters. And you'd get people being incredibly funny. And the director would go... Everybody else was double falling over themselves laughing.
And the director...
was worried about something completely different. Well, it's one of those things that, if you're doing something which is, when I'm directing something which is supposed to be funny, if it's funny, I'll laugh. I'll laugh a little bit more than necessary, but I'll let you know that that's right.
Nice, of course.
Because the other thing is that this is one of the reasons why there's so many stand-up comics end up doing comedies, whether it's on TV or whether it's, and also the people from improv, the people who come from improv, or Steve Carell, Amy Poehler, Tina Fey, all of those guys come from improvisation for the same reason that the people coming from stand-up comedy is they know funny. They know it's funny.
Yeah.
And you need somebody who knows it's funny, because the guy directing it probably doesn't. Not everybody's Gary Marshall. Not everybody's, Rob Reiner. Not everybody necessarily knows what makes things funny. It's one of those things. It's like when you get somebody who has no sense of rhythm. You're like, oh God, what are we going to do?
Bad. And they all want to write a musical. Isn't it funny?
Yeah, I saw Les Miserables.
They do. And they always think, and they have absolutely no musical talent, no rhythm, can't hold a tune, and they want to write musicals.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, a lot of boom operators are deaf. Which is, I think, is also very funny.
Right.
Is that a thing?
Some of them, yeah. Some of them, I had them. Yes, or blind people. I had blind people that they were directors of photography.
What do they do? Light it by sense of smell? What do they?
I had like this man who was called.
Are you sure they weren't pulling your leg?
No. They were really blind. They were directors of photography.
You didn't do this in Scotland, because this was Scotland. They were definitely taking the piss.
Well, but it's interesting, this thing of being clever, because
Well, I would say in terms, you have to be clever enough to know when to be simple and stupid.
Yes, that's true.
That's one of the things which people sometimes don't get. That all of the great comedy performances, they're based profoundly in a degree of naivety and innocence and simplicity.
But not Oscar Wilde.
The ideas are complex, but the actual the concepts are complex, but the drive behind them is very simple. It's not that complicated. Mm-hmm. When she says, "I carry my diary with me everywhere," one should always have something spectacular to read on the train, right? It's a very clear attack on Sicily.
Sicily. Sicily.
Cecily, sorry.
Sicily.
It's a very clear attack on a small island off the coast of Italy.
Wow, I didn't get that one.
Yes.
Too clever for me.
Yes. Yes. You should see what she said about Cyprus.
I mean, the other thing that is truly dangerous about comedy is that people have different senses of humor, and they gather in audiences. And well, it's why one needs an audience, because one needs to know, even witnessing, tragedy, people should come together as their society and look at things.
Yes.
And because they affect each other, and you start to understand how everybody feels, and it rubs off. But some people just don't find some things funny, and other people do. And it's not always easy. You can aim it, and it misses most of them.
Yes. Look, what Angela Capretti says, I believe it's about a different kind of intelligence, more connected to the emotional than the rational. The cleverness.
It's very interesting. I mean, in terms of, comedy manifests itself in so many different ways. Look, for example, The Office, right? I find The Office very funny.
And I didn't at the beginning.
And you didn't get it at the beginning. But it's the same thing with Veep.
I didn't get to the beginning because I don't like when people ridiculize,
Yeah, but you had a sour taste in your mouth from the British version of The Office, which is incredibly cruel.
Very cruel, and I don't like to laugh at people normally.
But you watched the David Brent film and you loved it because you understood that underneath it all there was an emotional core to it. There was a heart to it, which was the yearning for friendship and love and acceptance and all of those different things. And it's actually very sweet.
Yeah, but
it's very peculiar.
That's what I didn't like about the British Office.
No, I granted. It was a very particular point in British TV history.
Yeah, I suppose it was a little bit too sophisticated, this humor.
Well, I know people who've seen Spinal Tap, and I know you saw Spinal Tap and you're like, I don't get it.
No, I didn't get it. No.
You didn't get it initially.
Because I didn't know that
But then you didn't get Tom Waits.
Yes,
until you saw Big Time, which is a concert.
Yes,
and then you
went,
now I get Tom Waits.
Because
it's a show.
Only to hear it. It was I had to see it. Yeah, funny that.
It's funny that. Not funny, haha. Funny, peculiar.
Peculiar. So, what you would like to do as a clever play that you've seen or that you know? What kind of piece do you like Michael to?
I'd like to see him give us his Cecily.
I'd be fabulously good at Cecily. I think I have the requisite innocence for that.
You do. You look good in a bonnet.
Maybe I could give you my Sicily as well.
Only if you'll accept my Cyprus.
Yeah. No. What would I like to? Well, I would like to do any farce. Anything that requires energy. It was a wonderful actor. In fact, he's in The Interrogation of John, or not The Interrogation of John, he's in A Wanted Man, Simon Cadell. And his favorite thing above all was farce. And he said, do you know what a farce is like, one day? And I said, no. No, what do you do? And he performed in Eightbourne a lot, I think. And he said, Act 1, the plane is on the runway, and you're going down the runway, and you gather speed, and you gather speed, and you gather speed, and you gather speed, and you just lift off, and the curtain comes in. Act 2, the curtain goes out, the plane climbs and 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 climbs, and the curtain comes in. Act 3, there's a crash, and it turns and it crashes. That's the end. And he said, but it always kind of has that kind of energy and velocity. And it's to do with being honest. It's to do with the need. It's like all of those sex farces. It's like all of that Phaedo. It's things you don't want people to find out. It's all of those calculating things that human beings have. Now, we are not interested in the kind of breakfast cereal they ate that day. It's not like a Chekhov play. It's not like anything like that. We're interested in, are they going to get to do it? Are they going to go to the broom cupboard to do it? Are they going to do it under the bed? Will somebody find them? I mean, and what are the reverberations of having done it, and all of that. But and there are a million things like that. They're fun. They're to do with all kind of human behavior and wishes and what we want and what we want to get away with, and all of those things.
I think it's very.
I would love to be in a farce.
And no, what in
a farce.
A farce.
It's interesting what you say, because I was thinking about that. I was thinking about the play that goes wrong, and what the play goes wrong is it's a meta farce. It's the perfect excuse to have a farce, but what it is it establishes the conceit that everybody knows that they're already in a play, and it's just watching people being tortured for 2 hours. And the level of torture is something that anybody who's been on a stage has either gone through or has been frightened that it might happen.
I'm talking about funny and plays that I like to do. You remember this play that I gave you that you liked?
Chinaman. Chinaman is a farce, kind of. Chinaman is incredibly clever, properly. It is. It's construction and what they go through. Yeah.
I love to do that. And there's talking about energy. You have to have a lot there. Yeah.
Yeah, look, we have
characters playing for
related to intelligent, but it isn't necessarily intelligence, is it?
Well, what it is it comes down to the speed of thought again, right? It's the quantum leap of increasing amounts of velocity as the plane nears the ground. Do you know what I mean? And the detail of somebody going, it's going, and somebody's going, I've asked for ice 5 times. It's,
yeah.
What do I have to do? It's very, and there's a certain machine of it all, which is kind of, it's like I think the Coen brothers are the ones who've come closest to putting farce on film in a contemporary sense. Which has also got to do with that utter confusion as to what it all means.
I love confusion.
You love
confusion.
That
makes me laugh a
Assumpta's
lot.
never happier than when there's somebody on screen going, what?
Yeah.
That's the big thing. It's
Confusion
like
is wonderful.
if there's a scene where it's like, what? It has to be that level of confused. Look, we have a comment from Francisco, which is interesting. Very funny movie for me is the Monty Python's Life of Brian, but I understand it's not for everybody. It's very interesting about Life of Brian and Monty Python because the Canadians, the Americans, and the rest of the world cite Monty Python as a comedy reference. Monty Python disappeared from the UK in the 70s, and the only thing that we saw them in was Life of Brian, Never Something Completely Different, and The Holy Grail. And sort of ripping yarns when it was on the BBC. But we didn't see any more Monty Python TV shows because it was sold to the world and taken away from the BBC.
And why it was forbidden?
It wasn't it was forbidden. It was just it couldn't be shown by the BBC because they'd sold it. It was never repeated. It was never shown again. So the thing that influenced comedy in Canada and the United States and various other places, which was Monty Python, it disappeared. But what actually happened was you had this generation of, the Cambridge Footlights, that group of Hugh Laurie, Stephen Fry, Tony Slattery, Emma Thompson, all of those people, they were basically, they inherited, as with all of those comedy guys, from The Fringe, Beyond the Fringe, and all those sorts of things, this very highbrow, extremely upper middle class, attacking upwards, sort of like clever comedy. Right, but they were the ones that inherited it, so we kind of got it secondhand from them, people of my generation. That's where we got it from.
What do you think, Michael, about Monty Python's?
I didn't see much of it, but I mean, I remember everybody in drama school singing "I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay." I mean, it's funny. I know a lot of people who Life of Brian is their favorite funny movie, absolutely favorite. I saw it. I sort of remember it. They were not my favorites, but then to go back to Assumpta liking confusion in close up, Richard Griffiths, who I cited before, is in a film called he is in the film called Guarding Tess, which is about the wife of an ex-president. The president has died. It's played by Shirley MacLaine, and they have moved her to a house in somewhere like Ohio or somewhere, and she has staff, and Richard Griffiths is her chef. And at one point they go across country. They're going to go and see an opera somewhere in a major nearby city, because she's like in the country or something. And something happens to the car, and Richard Griffiths has gone into the slew in a sort of, a petrol station. And all he does is come out, and the car's gone off because something's happened in the plot, and the car isn't there. And it's just the look of him going, it's just terribly funny, because you just know this person is thinking, what happened?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I can't do it, but I mean, he was a genius.
That's very.
That happens to me a lot. So, sometimes Assumpta will say something to me that's come so out of left field, and just literally point at my face and laugh, because I go into this thing where I'm going.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you watch the process. You watch it go in.
Yeah, and you're.
I like this idea of confusion also when someone says very outrageous things. The face, the surprise.
Well, it's basically when Assumpta met my grandparents, she didn't understand that there were certain swear words that shouldn't be used in polite conversation in houses in Edinburgh with people's grandparents. So Assumpta was like, mother, she was like that, what the fuck, and I'm like, Assumpta, my grandparents were like,
I didn't see that at all.
What should our reaction
be? I thought that
right?
I was very British.
What should our reaction be right now? Assumpta, you'll have had your tea.
Yeah.
I thought it was a proof that I actually managed to.
Oh no, your English was extremely good, but you're swearing like an Irish navigator.
Yeah, Scottish.
Because
legacy.
My grandmother was she aspired to being lower middle class. That's what she wanted to be. That was her dream. And there's a certain thing in working class Scotsmen. Here I'm getting all Scottish right now. Working class Scotsmen don't swear in front of women or children. When they're in the pub on their own, they're like effing and blinding. So what they do is they edit their own swear words. So they'll go, I don't know what you're talking about. They'll actually drop the word out. It's like, you're nuts. Don't know what, you bunch of daft studs. They will actually do their own sound editing on the fly. It's very impressive.
On the fly.
Yeah, stupid idiot. I mean, they will actually drop it out. It's very clever. You don't do that here.
No.
You should.
I love those people that whisper things, because they can still say it, but they've whispered it, so it somehow must be better. And you think, well, it isn't. You just said it. And you go, yeah.
One of the first jobs I did was No Job for a Lady with Wendy Craig, right? I don't know if you've ever worked with Wendy Craig. Wendy Craig, who...
Nanny. She was Nanny.
Oh, really?
No, it wasn't. No, Penelope. No, it wasn't Wendy Craig. It was Penelope Keith.
Okay.
And she was a sweetheart, and she was somebody else who had an understanding of comedy on a quantum level. Amazing.
Very
funny. Hilarious. She could take any piece of crap script, and turn it into gold. It was amazing. And so I was doing No Job for a Lady, where she was playing like a Labour MP, etc., and it was in front of a studio audience. And God bless her, I was terrified because it was my first professional job, and it was in front of a live studio audience, etc., etc. And we had a scene together, and she said her first line and she messed it up, and she was like, oh, and everybody laughed and the audience laughed, and then we did the scene, and it wasn't until afterwards, of course, I realized that she messed it up. So I didn't feel bad. I mean, God love her.
Oh, right.
So she actually messed up her line to take the pressure off me, which is, I can't think.
In front of the audience.
In front of the audience.
That's very, very nice.
It was very absolutely wonderful over. But there was a chap on it, a guy called Brogden Miller. And And they were talking about somebody. It was like in the commissary at lunch or something like that over a bowl of overcooked pasta. And he went, and we're talking about somebody, and he leaned across and he went, "She is something of a see you next Tuesday."
Yes,
Right?
yes.
Right? And I was like,
What is that? I don't understand
CUNT.
See you. Oh,
Okay, right? Thanks for playing Assumpta. And I literally went, I'd never heard the term before, and I went, oh, okay. It took me a minute to go. And then it was funny because I was like, somebody came up with that, and then you went to all the effort of going, "A bit of a see you next Tuesday." Like I knew what you were talking about.
Yes.
I mean, I was 21 years old or something like that, and terrified about it.
One day I had somebody change it to "see you next time," and I was lost for a minute. And then I thought, oh, same thing. Tuesday time.
But I must say something though to finish off, because it's already 9:12, which is for me, British people are really funny. I mean, and
Often,
British actors.
yeah.
Yes, and British actors too. I mean, I don't know if it's the weather or what, but I mean, this idea to entertain the other while a conversation is something.
That's certainly the one thing. The first thing that British actors learn how to do is to pretend to be British actors.
Yes.
And the other thing is what we do is we like people to have fun, and we like to be liked. And the first people we entertain are our colleagues.
Yes.
It always worries me when you're working with an actor who doesn't really try to entertain everybody. It's like there's a contract.
Yes.
Yeah, we didn't have too much that in Borgia because it was a lot of different countries, the meltpot of everything, everyone.
Yes, the French are not known for their witty repartee amongst Englishmen.
No. Oh, French actors that I had.
It was the UN of acting companies, really.
Yes, exactly. It was the UN. We had to do a lot of diplomacy, but I love that in British. When I go and I do something in British, I love that. I love that the people have this pleasure to entertain others. No. Between
in a way, Assumpta, that is an appreciation in this country of clever and cleverness, because it's like a currency that you can use.
Yes.
Well, it's like that saying, you don't necessarily need to win the game, you just need to get chosen to play. And there's something to be said, and it's what we always tell Spanish actors here, is just don't be weird, don't be a pain in the ass.
Yes.
And just be a pleasant individual to be around. That is so useful, and people don't realize it. I've had to say sometimes, listen, he's a great actor, but he's a pain in the ass.
Yes.
And the question is, well, you're going to have to live with this guy for 10 months or something like that. So choose wisely.
Angela Capretti says, recently it's trend Cillian Murphy for his inexpressive face and his natural funny for everybody, but he doesn't make with
so that's not his intention.
That's not that intention.
Well, that's one of those things. I mean, it's like Buster Keaton or Stan Laurel. They were the straight man, as it were. There's an aspect to it, particularly if you're surrounded by people who are mercurial in their wit. That he'll come off as kind of slightly confused all the time and taking himself terribly seriously and not eating much. But it's interesting about the thing about Monty Python. When it came out in the UK, there was a great outcry from religious quarters saying it was sacrilegious and blasphemous. The curious thing is that one of the questions I ask, because we've for one reason or another, have had many interactions with the church and indeed wrote a book on this subject, is my question is always, what do you think about Life of Brian? And universally, all the Catholics love Life of Brian. Life of Brian is considered to be almost a sacred movie because of its respect to the idea of Christianity and its full-on attack of the tendency that human beings have to follow falsehood.
Yeah.
Where's the fetus going to gestate? You're going to keep it in a box. It's rather prescient. It's what's very interesting. Angela Capretti says Big Bang Theory is particularly funny If you don't follow it, you won't get it. It's very interesting. Big Bang Theory. It's curious. Things like Big Bang Theory. I recommend that you watch it. You can find it on YouTube where they've removed the laughter. It's not funny. And also what happens is that it's playing upon brand recognition, which is kind of curious.
That's another thing. Yeah, this thing of the laughs that they were enlatadas. How you say that?
Canned laughter.
Yeah, canned laughter. I don't know what to think about it. It's always kind of a deception when you watch it. No, you don't feel that way, Michael?
I have it playing in my bedroom all the time. It helps.
Okay.
There's nothing better than having a studio audience of 400 people with free seats, laughing at everything that you say or do. Yeah. It's like Francisco Peramos says, The Big Lebowski is great. To quote The Big Lebowski, well, that is just like your opinion, man. Big Lebowski is a perfect movie. It's with the great Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Oh yes.
God, there's so many great things. John Turturro, one of the greatest cameos in history when he plays Jesus. Oh, absolutely, absolutely magnificent. Man, there was right. Okay, so let's close it up for today, shall we? That was being clever. Next week, stupidity. We'll be exploring all the aspects of being a thicko. We're going to wonder whether, like, a compacted head injury can really advance your career, and yeah, exactly, yeah. Is going to school necessary at all? When I went to drama school, I did the diploma in dramatic art, which literally isn't worth the paper it's written on. The diploma, because all it is the diploma. There's no to get into my drama school. All you had to do was audition. You didn't have to be able to read. We had no academic stuff whatsoever. It was just all black leggings and animal exercises for us. That's what we did. And now I'm a seagull. That's what we were doing. That was me for 3 years. Never did Chekhov, ironically. So.
But Chekhov is funny, no?
Yeah, but Chekhov has a play called The Seagull.
No, yes, of course.
Okay. So, but and now I'm a panther. All right, overcoats off, crosswords down. Right. Oh,
a tree.
That's why drama students all want to go to the RSC. They all want to go to the RSC because they think it's just going to be more drama school. That's what we all dream of. It's going to be. We'll get back and they'll hand us a pair of ballet flats, some black leggings.
I remember how seriously we were taking this thing of being a tree.
You'll meet a lot of attractive young women if they only shave their armpit hair, and use the deodorant. That's just, and their practice skirts. That whole thing. God, we lusted after that. And I had David Tennant went there and Emma Fielding. She went there and played everything. It's like that old joke about Ian McKellen. No, Ian McKellen plays a great deal, many different parts when he's part of the company. For example, he's playing the footman right now. I said, really? What's the play? It's The Footman.
Yes.
All of those jokes. Oh God, But
it was a pleasure talking to you.
Yes,
as always.
Yeah,
pleasure talking to you. I'm sorry if I wasn't very clear. It's quite a complex subject, really.
It is
very clear.
Well, one of the interesting things that actors are always told when they're in training is their teachers say, "Stop thinking so much." And you go, "What? Stop thinking so much?"
And you think, how? It's like, don't think of pink elephants, and immediately.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You see the wonderful
The
pink.
trick is, and this is what I found working with actors, is I'm not going to tell you to not think so much. I'm going to give you something that's actually quite interesting to think about. Mm-hmm. Right? Think about this, and you go, all right, now go wander off down that path, and you'll see that you're not thinking less, you're thinking more, but you're thinking about something which is useful, and everybody can read that. It's like Richard Griffith's like, did somebody steal the car? Did I park it here? Is this, have I traveled in space and time? It's one of those sorts of things. you know.
Francisco says, what do you think about Desperate Housewives? It was a huge success.
I have never seen it. I'm not aware of its oeuvre.
And you?
I've seen a little bit of it.
What was the good part? The Desperate?
Desperate or
I have problems with anything that has a title where they've told you the entire plot in the title. I have a little problem with that.
Yes. Like
You know what you're going to get, and then you do.
Well, you got King Lear, Romeo and Juliet, Tale of Two Cities. I mean, it goes on. Lord of the Rings. I mean, Star Wars. Yeah. The Avengers. What are they going to do? They're going to avenge. You know, and no surprise.
Yeah.
Should have done something infinitely strange.
No, but Desperate Housewives, you know they're, you know, I don't know what I think about it.
Yes.
I think it was probably fine.
Well, did you ever see Veep?
No.
Veep is possibly the greatest character ever written for a woman or a man. Indeed, it's one of the most extraordinary pieces of writing and comedies there are. It's Armando Iannucci who went on to who did The Thick of It and amongst other things, and he also did Succession, and he's Scottish. I think he's Scottish, Italian, and Jewish. There's like three stereotypes for the price of one. And what they did is they were initially, all the scripts were written by one man, and then all the actors would get together with the directors, and they would rehearse them, and they would rewrite the script, and each actor who knew their character intimately would make it more towards their character. So by the time they came to shoot it, it was pretty much academic. And it's the only thing I've ever seen where I actually had to stop and go, Assumpta, there are 8 jokes in 12 seconds. Right? This is a joke, wow. This is a joke, this is a joke. Of course, there's no laugh track because otherwise it would never work. But it's so dense in terms of the layers of the humor it has. I highly recommend it.
It's another one I never got.
No, you never...
But that is because they were talking so fast that for me the English was difficult to get.
Yeah, it's very, very fast.
It's very fast.
And very brutal.
Yeah.
Right, let's finish up for tonight. Michael, it has been a delight as always, I have to say. I'm going to send you... I have to tell you right now, I have found Jeremy Irons on Playaway in 1975. And I'm not kidding. I could probably share it with you right now because it's quite. How do I do that? Okay, there we go. Start at. So I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna see if I can share it with us here because it's gonna be quite spectacular. Let me just. Right. Okay. Let me just get that out of the way.
3, 2, 1, saltar, jump. Yes.
All right. I just wanted to come here. Let me just go ahead, and I'm gonna come into here. Okay, that's not exactly what I was expecting. And I'm gonna make this share screen, and then I'm gonna come down to. All right. I don't know if you can see that. Let me just get there. There we have Jeremy Irons.
Do you see it?
Yes.
There we go. And then let me see. We got Jeremy Irons here, making an absolute tit of himself. God love him. Right.
That's funny. Who is that?
That's Brian Kent, and that's Jezzer. There's Jezzer there.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
Very handsome there.
He's a good-looking boy. He's with a delightful voice. I like Jeremy. Where were we in Rome? We were at the
Festival.
European Film Awards, and we took the car from the hotel with Jezza Irons. It was. You ever worked with Mr. Irons?
Yes.
And how was your experience?
I was in Kingdom of Heaven briefly.
That's right. Yes.
Ridley Scott. I think I'm mostly cut from it, but he was wonderful, and I've worked with his wife many times, Sinead Cusack.
She's brilliant.
Yeah.
She's very, very good.
She is.
Yeah. You don't know. There's all these actors that you don't know. You don't know who they are.
No.
These stalwarts.
Well, I know his lover.
Right, thank you very much for that, Assumpta. Moving swiftly along. I don't
Spanish
know.
lover? Sorry.
Less of that later. Yes, okay, welcome to the show. We'll be...
okay, we'll have to cut that one.
You home wrecker, you. Right. Honestly. Right, well, Michael, thank you very much. It's been a delight. We'll have a little after show. And we're going to be back tomorrow in Spanish, right? Tripping the Light, fantastic.
Yes.
I haven't spoken this much English in a long time. Can you tell? I am very good at speaking the English very well, Fandango. That is what I'm very good at right now. Right, so, Michael, thank you very much, Assumpta. It's been a pleasure. And we'll see you tomorrow in Spanish. And we have a little
next Thursday, Michael?
Well, next Thursday. No, next Thursday we're going to be in Catalonia, Assumpta.
We'll be in Catalonia.
Giving a class in the Catalonia Film School.
So it won't be for 2 weeks, yes?
Yes, 2 weeks.
But are we going to be in Venice at that point?
Yes.
We'll have to do this from Venice, darling.
Oh, how wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
we're going to be there until the end of June. We are celebrating. It's our
30th anniversary.
Congratulations. Gosh.
Why you say that way?
It's like that. It's that thing. It's that thing where you go, well done.
Congratulations. That was funny, Michael.
And they said it would never last.
Yes, they said it.
I think you and I just...
Lots of people don't, I don't think, anymore, do they? They last about 6 years. That's thought of as a long marriage now, I think.
Yes. Before was a crisis, now is a divorce.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think probably you and I are still together just to prove them all wrong. I think we're just doing it out of sheer bloody-mindedness.
Could be.
It's like, you said it wouldn't work. Yeah. There's just nothing but seething intolerance from both of us.
No, but it's going to be nice.
Yeah, it'll be nice. Once do we have to pay? Don't you have to pay a sort of tax to be there every day now?
Yeah, you're saying that.
Yeah, there's a kind of tourist tax.
Every day?
Yeah. I don't know whether it's whether you get into the gondola or out of the gondola. I'm not a big fan of the gondola.
No,
it seems like a bit of a scam. As long as they've got, do they have supermarkets in Venice?
No idea.
When's the last time you were there? You were on the jury of the film festival.
Yes.
She called me. She was on the jury of the Venice Film Festival, The Way You Are, and she says, Scott, I'm in Venice. I'm like, yeah, I was in Los Angeles at the time. She says, I'm with a Scottish person. Do you want to speak to him? And I was like, yeah, okay. And I was like, and somebody came on the phone and went, hello. And I went, hi, this is Scott. Who am I speaking to? And he went, this is Peter Mullen. And I'm like, oh, hi, Peter. I love your films. And he was like, yeah, I'm here with your missus. And we're just in Venice and all that. And I'm like, all right, well, have fun. Well done on the career and everything. Loved you in Braveheart. See you later. That's the sort of thing, I guess that's why we didn't divorce.
Why?
You just keep me updated on all the strange adventures. And Assumpta's always getting into scrapes. She always turn around. Right, so we've got to go jet skiing. And I'm like, what's that? We don't know.
Yes. That was terrible.
Assumpta compelled me to learn wakeboarding, which is like water skiing but on a snowboard, because I used to know how to snowboard. She compelled me to learn how to do it on a Sunday afternoon in high winds in Menorca when there was a great white shark in the area.
Gosh.
Yes, I don't know why.
And I couldn't get on my feet once, and my entire upper body was traumatized, and I was just going, Jesus, I wish this shark was nearby right now. I literally, if it just came up and chomp, I'd be like, yeah, bon appetit. I got out because all the strength is on. It's basically all the muscles in your chest and your upper arms are getting torn because it goes, and you go, and you get the Mediterranean through your face. And I got off, and I was literally like this. I literally had to go, right, so. Because none of my upper body would work, so I was having to kind of pick up a pen. Like that was me for 3 days. Thanks, Assumpta.
Experience.
Yeah, the things I do. Anyway, right,
Thank
let's
you.
go on.
See, Michael, because we are not entertaining you.
No. Go have supper.
No, you are entertaining me. Are you doing an after show now thing?
No.
Well, we'll have a brief moment. We'll have a brief moment, right? This is it. All right. We'll be back on Friday, which is tomorrow, and we'll see you soon. These are the credits, and we'll be back for a short time after. All right, screw it, we're back. Right, so I just can't wait. Those credits going forever, but it's, with special thanks to, but remember that when they used to have comedies on the BBC and it would say Michael Fitzgerald is appearing in Run for Your Wife. It's the Gielgud Theatre.
Yes.
You can see them.
By special permission with the Royal Shakespeare Company.
Yeah, he's currently, that sort of thing. He's currently playing Touchstone and blah blah. They would do.
Where was that?
What they would do is they would have like the young ones or one of those alternative comedy shows. Is that they would, if any of the actors who were in the show on the TV program happened to be on stage in London at the time, it would tell you over the credits.
Wow.
You can be like that. You can see Mike Yarwood in Hey, This Is Me at the Theatre Royal Drury Lane until September.
Why? Because TV was pushing the actors also in theatre. What?
Well, it would be another way of sort of promoting the actor and promoting their show. But they always did that.
We never did that here.
No, well, but the other thing you got to remember is the BBC that would show a program and that was it. That was it. There was no VHS. Nobody was, that was the show.
And why they don't do it now?
I don't know. I have no idea. I haven't lived in the UK since 1993. I'm 30 years away.
Yes.
So I have no idea, darling.
And what do you think, Michael? Why they don't do it now?
Why they don't advertise people in the... Well, I think because everything is so... I don't know. I never watch things really. I don't know what they do, but they haven't done that for years. They haven't.
Well, one of the things is something. You have streaming programs. You have things people watch them out of order. You can things are streamed, so it's not you're not seeing them contextually in the time.
Yeah, but it's a nice...
That's right. So you don't know when you're going to be seeing them. I mean, you just... And also, you can Google people on IMDb and find out what else they've done, and then you can think, oh, they're in that, and look it up. It's kind of all that.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I always remember it would say, God, what was his name? Citizen Smith. Oh God, he did GBH. Robert Lindsay.
Okay, yeah.
Robert Lindsay was in I remember when GBH was on the TV, he was doing Me and My Girl in the West End. It would say, you can see Robert Lindsay in Me and My Girl that's playing in the Theatre Royal Drury Lane in London. And it would say things like that. Were you going to say, why do I remember that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I once did a Christmas show of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Of course you did.
And it was at Leicester, and they had just opened, with Robert Lindsay and Emma Thompson, they had opened Me and My Girl, and our set fit on the inside of their set. So that we would perform twice in the daytime, and then they'd come and do the show. It was most extraordinary.
Yeah, and I actually ended up at the Haymarket Theatre. That's where it was. That's where it lived in London when it got there.
No. It was the Adelphi, I think.
Really?
It was in Strand. It was in the Strand.
It must have. They must have moved because I remember at one stage.
Maybe.
At one stage, it was where I used to get the number 12 to Peckham, just down from Trafalgar Square.
Oh, okay.
No, not Trafalgar Square. From the
Circus.
The circus, whatever it's called, down from the Trocadero.
Oxford Circus?
No, not Oxford Circus.
Piccadilly
Circus. That's the one. Yeah, that's the one. God's sake, seems like a million years ago. God.
Let's go.
All right, Michael. Thank you very much. Assumpta, it's been a pleasure. Let's
see you in a fortnight. Have a great time in Venice.
Yeah, well, we'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Bye for now. Bye, everybody out there.
Thank you. Bye-bye.